John with Brainstorm Comics and Gaming, and this is our third episode of our comic portfolio. This week, because of the delay between episodes, we're going to have $300 to work with, except for me. I have $280 because I may have exceeded my budget. May have. So for those of you who have not watched the previous episodes, the idea behind this is that we're doing some fantasy investing, which has become less fantasy and more real-life investing, I guess. So the idea is for every week that it takes us to do a film, we get $100. So our target is to do every 2 weeks, so $200 every other week. You can go back and watch the old episodes, see what we have in our portfolios now. We're also working on getting a website up and keeping track of all of the stuff as well. To start off with, I know you said you wanted to do at least a tip or two on each episode, just as a nice idea.
Yeah.
So one of the things you and I had talked about was keeping like this book nearby whenever you're looking at books, whether it be online or in person. This is the Overstreet Guide to Grading Comics. The great thing about this is that it actually has pictures and stuff also, so you can like look at the ones that you're looking at and compare them to the ones in there and see which one is most similar to. So you get closer to the grade, even if you're not a professional grader, as like several of the eBay people say. At least you have an idea of the grade it should be. Obviously, also ask questions like, is this a complete copy? If it doesn't say that it's a complete copy, make sure that if you don't know, or if they don't know, another great thing is to ask them how many pages are in it, and then go to the comic book database, and a lot of times that will have the number of pages, or even mycomicshop.com is a great resource for information. Even if you're not shopping there, it actually, I think you and I both have said we use it for tools in terms of like looking things up.
Oh yeah, because it's he's even started to further subdivide it into like newsstand variants and all these things. So it's a great quick reference resource.
Yeah. The other cool thing about it is even if you don't have a CGC account, you can go to My Comic Shop and look at the CGC census there. They have one of the tabs on each of the books. Not all of them. I think there's some that don't have that updated at this point. But
and if not, another good resource also for values and census is go to Heritage Auctions websites. You can just register for free. Mm-hmm. You can really track book sales on there. Some of them are a little bit beyond what maybe the current market value is on it, but it's
or what the average collector can.
Or what the average collector can get. But it's a good insight into the values of some of the scarcer books, but also they show the census typically. And it's a good reference, again, of graded books for point of comparison, which is always a good database. And
if you are buying on eBay, I know one of the things that you said is you highly recommend that people go on their personal computer, their PC or laptop instead of their phone, because you can lose a lot of the details on a phone.
Yeah, really, you really want a big screen to be able to zoom in and look at those corners, edges, and spine. Don't forget the surface as well for any little stains. And
so I will also add in another thing is don't buy it the first time you look at it.
Right.
Because you're going to have those rose-colored glasses when you look at it the first time. Like, oh, I've been waiting for this one. And then
that's right. And make sure you read the full description of the listing. I mean, because there are sellers on there. The more you kind of read through and learn different sellers, the more you kind of catch red flags on certain sellers and certain methods that people do in terms of fuzzy images, or they'll have a huge block of text in their description, and you get to the very bottom, and at the very bottom in the similar font it just says minor color touch, and then this book that's being advertised as,
or sometimes not actual comic also, like this is a stock photo, it's not
right.
So
right, yes, so really read the details. And
so going along with what you just said, earlier this week I had sent you a link to something I was looking at, and you're like, I would stay away from that guy. He or she has a reputation for boosting the price of their books over market value. So
right, which is fine. Like they can ask what they want to ask, but I guess really, like you say, don't jump at the first one. Then go and do some research as to other sites. Go to Comic Link, go to Heritage, go to Worldwide Comics, go to all My Comic Shop and see what these books are really selling for, because the market changes quickly and there are certain dealers that perfectly legitimate, but they're trying to, rightfully so, they're trying to push the market up, which is fine.
And maximize their profit.
Maximize their profit, like no problem with that. But I have gotten books from different sellers where maybe the description wasn't in the photos. Again, it wasn't quite what I was expecting, or I realized after the fact. And this was when I was first getting started, that it was not, that I should have been patient and done a little bit more research in terms of the market on a book. So really know the market on a book, so that if you do see it and it pops up, you know it's a reasonable price, or then you can more confidently jump on it.
Although I did buy one that popped up immediately this week, because there was only 9 on the census, and it was one that I was really interested in. We won't talk about the specifics of that one right now, because you said I should probably do like a segment on it in the future.
Yeah, I think there's nothing. I've done that too in terms of jumping on a book, because also there are certain ones, if you know that they just do not come up very often, and you get a decent copy pop up, that it doesn't, at a reasonable price, it doesn't really matter.
This was a graded copy, and it was a low grade one. It was a 2.0, but like I said, there's only 9 graded at all. So
yep.
I took the risk. I was like, I want this book. So
yeah,
and that wasn't even an investment book. That's just personal interest thing. So
even better, if you're buying what you like, then it doesn't really matter.
Exactly. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes though of the comic book portfolio. So my first purchase for this episode was Dark Horse Presents Annual number from 1998. It was for $100. And my second one was also Dark Horse Presents Annual 1998. That one was for $90. And the reason I have both of these in my portfolio right now is it's the first appearance of Buffy in comics. Disney acquired the rights to all of that with their Fox purchase. Obviously, was it like $50 billion they spent in that purchase, $55 billion, something like that.
I thought it was. Oh wait, no. I'm sorry, Fox. I was thinking Lucasfilms.
Yeah, that was $4.
That was $4 billion.
Yeah. And so, like I said, they acquired a lot of properties in that purchase. They also had 3 novels come out late last year. So I think that's a good indicator that Disney sees some future potential and more maybe TV series, movies, or what have you. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a Buffy move over to Marvel at some point. Yeah. Maybe even have like a Blade crossover at some
That'd
point.
be interesting.
And of course, she's a female lead. She's been around, 30 years at this point.
Yeah, when did that original Joss Whedon?
I want to say like 91 is when the original movie started. And I think the TV show was like 94. It might have been early 90s, and then in the late, like 97, I think the TV series started.
That's right, okay.
So
Donald Sutherland.
Yeah. So, like I said, I see a lot of potential in that. Yes, it already is a pretty pricey raw book at like $90 and $100, but like I said, I think that there's a lot of potential still to grow for that one.
And clearly it has cultural staying power, pop culture staying power. Everybody knows Buffy. It spans multiple generations, and also the generation that grew up with it really is. And
despite Joss Whedon's problems right now, the cast has come out and said, "Look, yeah, he's a terrible person, but like the series is good for female empowerment and things like that." So
yeah.
So they all talked about how they enjoyed it as a product, like in terms of what they did and contributed to the series, and they were like, "Please don't judge it just based on Joss Whedon's actions." So
yeah.
So then we were staying with Dark Horse in this episode, or for my purchases. I moved on to Aliens #1, the first appearance of the Xenomorphs, the aliens in comics. This was a $70 purchase. Marvel is doing a lot with like the miniseries and stuff with the aliens right now. I think they're on their 3rd or 4th miniseries right now, something like that. And then they have the ongoing by Philip Kennedy Johnson. Again, they didn't buy those properties to let them sit there and do nothing. So I'm 100% sure we will see an Aliens movie within like the next couple years. The other thing about this one is it's difficult to find in high grade. I will tell you, I think I mentioned this to you. Like it seems like the Dark Horse paper was a little bit lower quality. Almost all of them have scuff marks on various areas along the binding. This one is a black cover also, so it makes it even harder to get in high grade.
Yeah, I wonder if the ink, sometimes they can put more of a protective coating on, and in looking at those, it's more of just like a pure matte finish on them. So I'm wondering also if that contributes just poor ink, not poor ink quality, but they didn't go to the extra step.
Gotcha. Well, at that point, Dark Horse was still a relatively new company. They were
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 years into their existence at that point, something like that. Um, so they may not have had the money or the know-how to, or maybe they were cutting costs in order to get the product out. And
They're cool covers though, and I like I actually really like the color on them. They display nicely.
yeah. Let me tell you, I did a lot of searching trying to find ones without like the color or the color scuffs and all that. So my fourth and final one for this episode was Dark Horse Presents number 24, Again Staying with the Aliens. It was $30. This is the origin of the Xenomorphs. We've seen what happened with like the Star Wars books when Marvel started doing those, and then Disney started making the movies. There was a lot of interest in the Dark Horse stuff, even though it was no longer in continuity with what they were doing. Marvel, like I said, is clearly pushing the Aliens franchise and for comic books. And Disney clearly has a plan for what they're doing. They did not spend $50 billion to just go, oh, okay.
Is there any indication that Ridley Scott is going to
I haven't seen anything.
Because it was Prometheus, and then he did a follow-up to that, which I did not see, but it wouldn't surprise me if he comes back and do another one.
See, I wouldn't be shocked if they just do a whole reboot and start it back from the beginning.
Maybe so. But without Bill Paxton screaming, it's not as good.
There is that. So, so my total for this one was $290. So I'm still $10 in the hole for it happens.
What's the weekly interest rate gain on that loan?
Well, it gets worse in the next episode. So, what do you think of those picks there, Tim?
I think those are good. I think that's Dark Horse has a lot of interesting properties, and while it may not be now's the time to get in on them, they do have a cultural following, and they've shown that they can hang around for quite a while, and I think they are low risk buys, but also it's the type of book where, you know, Dark Horse. I'm sure those early books, while popular, probably went into people's bins and unbagged and boarded and weren't seen as valuable and sat in a lot of dollar boxes for a long time. Hence, a lot of the scuffs.
Yeah, the Dark Horse Presents stuff was probably a lot of that was probably shuffled off into discount bins and
right. So I think it's going to be one of those things also where they are. They're always going to have a following. They're going to be popular, and people who want those early books, it's going to be tough for them to find them high grade.
I think they're safer bets.
Yeah,
that's another reason why I chose them.
I think so, and like you said, Buffy with the female lead and kind of a lot of these female leads finally getting their due in some of these movies. It'd be great to see what they do with it. Clearly, an example would be like Sabrina, which has constantly kind of reinvented itself as a character, and the new series, which is really great, with the kind of darker side of things I enjoy. So I could see them doing something similar with Buffy as well, and so I think it's a great pick.
All right, so that's mine. Let's switch spaces.
Mine are, again, no surprise, DC. But I think another kind of tip I would say is there are plenty of books where one could see gain in it, particularly in Silver Age and older books, purely by targeting grade and great covers, because it doesn't have to necessarily be a key for people to ultimately want it, especially if they collect that run. So again, kind of going back to, I think, previous weeks I talked about Legion of Superheroes. It's a great group, and there's a lot of great covers during the Silver Age.
So one of the funny things to me is a lot of the YouTube personalities talk about, oh, Marvels are the better investment, but man, DC guys and gals will spend money on books if they really want those books.
Yeah, I've been watching again these kind of adventure books between number 300 or start of the Legion in 247 up through to 400, and there are certain ones, even if they're not the major first appearance, if it's a 9.4, 9.6, you're already talking thousands of dollars.
I will tell you another difference that I've noticed, and maybe you differ in this one, but I've noticed a lot of DC fans are willing to pay graded prices on raw copies if they feel it is that grade. It seems like they want to go home and be able to flip through it and read it, whereas the Marvel people seem more like, I want to put it up on my wall and kind of admire it. And I'm not saying that there aren't people on either side that are the opposite,
sure,
but generally I'm talking in terms of that.
It's a pretty diehard contingent, but also, and maybe this is more anecdotal, but it does seem to be hold true that those early silver golden age DC books, it's really much harder to find them in higher grade than their Marvel counterparts in many instances, it seems.
Yep.
So for the first one here is Adventure Comics number 342. It's just a great Legion cover.
I love those old covers with their colors and everything.
It's great. They're very, like we were talking about, they're not so busy. You've got all the classic characters here. It's good colors. I'd put this maybe a 7.5 or so, and I only paid $26.10 for it.
Almost Crisis on Infinite Earths, like on the left-hand side with holding the...
Right, actually, that's a good point. Holding, and a lot of these early covers inspired a lot of the later artists. And so, again, they can be had. They don't show up in high grade very often. And eventually Legion will make its way one way or the other. And
they're talking about a TV show. Brian Michael Bendis is tied to it, so...
That's right. I think it was going to be an animated.
I believe so. I'm not positive, but I think so.
Which is a good start because there's a huge cast of characters, and maybe it'll be easier as an animated. But again, this was the cover date on this is 1966, so Silver Age black cover. So you run into a little bit harder time trying to find them where they don't have the scuffs and tick marks and all. So for $22 or $26, can't really go wrong with it. And again,
felt like it was a steal.
It's a dedicated fan base. People love Legion of Superheroes, and so
people who love Legion are.
So so then following up that one is number 350. Again, a cover date of 1966. This is the first appearance of a major character. This is the first appearance of the White Witch. Kinda, it's one of those things where it's White Witch in disguise as an old hag.
Gotcha.
And then the next issue, 351, is where she's presented as the form that everybody then knows her. And so this is a key character as part of the Legion group. Again, this was $27.
Another great cover.
7.75 to 8.0. Low buy-in for again a mid-60s DC book. That's kind of a key that could become more popular as it moves forward. So that was a good, just. Low risk buys. Honestly, there's always people who are going to want Silver Age DC keys.
Well, it's a great cover also,
and it's a great cover with the team here, and Superboy's crying and Supergirl's crying, and some of these early covers are just they're great,
hysterical.
They're really entertaining. Yes, they're really entertaining.
You're like, the cover looks so innocuous, and then you start reading the word balloons, and you're like,
Is it the Legionnaires kick out their buddies, Superboy and Supergirl, find out the reason, and outcast superheroes. And then everybody's all happy in the background. It's almost like the National Enquirer of covers here. So it's really entertaining. Great colors, and
some of the Lois Lane ones had some great word balloons.
There are some great. The Lois Lane series is also kind of.
And by great, I mean very, very wrong for today's standards.
Yes.
And
they're pretty, but and even some of the early, like the 100 to 200, where it's a lot of the Superboy covers are very entertaining covers, and also the colors as you're getting more towards the Golden Age become really vibrant. Covers and really great artwork on the books.
So I don't know too much about that character. How important is she into like Legion of Superheroes?
White Witch, she's not at that top tier, I would say, of like Dream Girl, who's the leader. Even why am I drawing a blank here? Saturn Girl, definitely the biggest, and Lightning Glad, and those. But she just becomes one of the key, kind of the main group. Members, okay. I would say, of that core is the only
Legion I ever really read was Abnett Landing's run, and then a little bit of Mark Waid's run that followed that. So I don't remember that character being used much during that. But
she's not huge. I was reading, what was it, the Great Darkness Saga, which has her. Which again, and that's maybe part of the problem you run into Legion is there's not any really one character that ends up dominating the group unless Superboy's there or Supergirl or maybe some of the later ones with Saturn Girl.
Yeah, there's like 3 characters you see pretty regularly, but outside of that,
it becomes like
rotating.
Timberwolf is a very popular character, and Firestorm, but Firestar. Is that it? I can't remember it. But they're interesting characters. Timberwolf is kind of, we've talked about, is kind of a precursor to Wolverine or prototype to Wolverine type character. But again, they kind of rotate in and out, and so it's so you got a lot. But that also means there's a lot that you can target. You can find characters you find interesting, and you can pick up their first appearances pretty low price right now.
Yep.
So
2 good pickups.
So those would be mine for this week, because I had.
You're just carrying money over and over and over.
Don't worry. It's for a purpose. Okay. So I had my budget this week. I had after tallying everything up from week 1 and 2, I had $452 in budget. So with these, that brought me down to by $53.32. So just under a hair under 400 to carry over into the next episode, which then we add 200 and
then you start spending,
and then it all goes towards a bigger one.
Okay. So I think we did pretty well this week. It was a pretty small week compared to what we have been doing, but it was. I think we both made some good purchases, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see, because I think the market on some of these Silver Age and then also the independent books, as people are turning an eye towards other things, because Marvel books, especially the moderns, they're kind of exploding out of sight for it. So there's plenty of opportunities for collectors to find other really great books.
Gotcha. All right, so we'll end there. Thank you for watching this episode of the Comics Portfolio. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another one, and see you then.